I remember sitting in the jacuzzi,
Wow.
didn't know when he was going to die. And I asked him 25 questions. I said, what should I name my son? What's your favorite memory?
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
With Father's Day around the corner, grief therapist Claire Bidwell Smith joins us as I open up about losing my dad 3 years ago. We talk about how to show up for someone who's grieving, how anxiety is tied to grief, and what it looks like to grieve in a way that helps you heal from loss.
The grief feels like a rock in your pocket. And when that person dies, the rock feels like a boulder. But over time, the rock turns into a stone, but it never leaves your pocket.
Never. Loss is something that happens to us, but how we grieve is up to us.
The world needs free therapy.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Kevin. Welcome to Free Therapy. All right. Claire, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks
Such
for
a joy to have you
Hey,
here.
Claire.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
It's a weird thing to say about grief when you talk about it, but
Yeah, maybe today we'll figure out why that's possible. For everyone who doesn't know, Claire is one of the, I think, most trusted experts on grief and therapists on grief in the country. Has 5 books on loss, 4 of which are right in front of us here. And you've sat, I think, with thousands of people experiencing grief and loss. And I'm just really glad that we can have you here today to, give everyone some free therapy.
I'm glad to.
and share about, our own experiences with grief and loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when Kevin and I were planning out our podcast, Father's Day was coming up. And Kev is like, Ben, I think we should do a grief episode on Father's Day because 3 years ago, actually like 2 days before Father's Day, I lost my dad. And Kevin was there for me the whole time. He was kind of my support. And in that process of losing my dad, it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever been through. And I didn't really know what to do. And I think being with my mom and my brothers, everyone just felt a little bit lost. But I had a friend like Kevin to help me get through it. And we thought on this episode, it would be so helpful to talk about grief, how to grieve, what about grief are we doing right? What about grief are we doing wrong? And I think for the person who's grieving, advice for them or what I've experienced, and I know you've had some loss as well. And, Kevin has had a unique situation where he's had multiple friends lose their dads over the last 10 years, and he's been there for all of it.
Yeah.
And that's a unique experience as well. And I look forward to hearing kind of your point of view about that. And yeah, so having you here is really special on this. It's always hard when that anniversary comes around, right?
No, the anniversaries are real.
Yeah.
You feel it. You start to feel it before it's even here. You feel it in like the weeks and months leading up. You just kind of have that sense memory, feel it under your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you a little bit about your dad and your loss?
Yeah, I would love you to. Thank you.
Would you tell me your dad's name?
Mickey. His name is Michael, but we called him Mickey.
Oh.
he was a fun
Teller.
Mickey Teller. He's if you know me, you know the type of dad I have, which was just like so fun and outgoing and loved classic rock to the point where I'm wearing his shirt today.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, because the first concert he ever took me to was Fleetwood Mac,
Nice.
and the second concert he took me to was Eric Clapton.
Wow.
So I'm like 11.
1, 2.
Yeah.
And so actually, he wore this all the time. And when he passed, he gave me some of his clothes. And this is the concert I actually went to.
Wow.
And I was only 12, so I didn't know.
Wow.
Amazing.
So I wear it a lot. My friends are like, wow, you really like these cut sleeve shirts. And I feel like, I want to get close to him.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm wearing my mom's earrings and one of her rings. I always have these things on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wearing his watch. I'm wearing his necklace.
Yeah.
Right. I remember when he
so
gave me both when he was alive. He was like, I want you to have these. So I always try to embody my dad. I enjoy feeling him. Do you experience that?
Absolutely. My mom was a force. I lost my mom at 18 and she was, just my world. She was fun and sexy and vibrant and like threw a million parties and had a million friends and was just a really fun mom to have and just always made me feel so loved. And the way I feel close to her now is being like her and bringing forth those qualities that mattered to me.
What was her name? Sorry. Sally. Really quick about that. I find it amazing when someone asks me his name if they don't know me. I love when someone who knew him tells me a story,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
People don't know that you can do that.
Oh,
What about asking what they were like?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, any of it. I think people are so afraid to ask about someone's person because weirdly, they think that if they bring it up, they're going to upset you and that maybe you haven't been thinking about it. But of course, we're thinking about it. That's always with us. And so I think when someone brings up our person and asks questions and tells stories, it feels so good. It feels so relieving. And I think it can feel really lonely when people don't ask, you know?
So for someone has friends who are going through loss or a family, bringing it up, is there a right way to do it or time? Or is it really just that if someone's experiencing loss, they are grieving?
Yeah.
And you're never going to be reminding them of it. I think I have this all the time. I never know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, there's no perfect time or thing to say, but the things that is wrong to do is to not talk about it and to not bring it up at all. So a lot of people, they're afraid to bring it up. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing. They're afraid of upsetting their friend or their, whoever, their family member. And so they just don't talk about it and they try to act like everything's fine and normal. Meanwhile, I'm sure you understand the grieving person is like, all you're really thinking about and feeling all the time is this loss and missing and all of it. And so when someone does bring it up, it's just like, bringing the elephant into the room and acknowledging it and making it feel like, your friend can be in it with you and you don't feel alienated or alone. But sometimes it's as simple as saying, I've been thinking about you a lot. Like, how are you feeling? Like, how is it feeling for you today?
Yeah.
And if someone's grieving and really doesn't want to talk about it, they'll probably just tell you that, like, I just can't today, or I can't talk about it. Most of the time, I think you'll find like the relief is there and they're like, oh, it's hard. I'm having a hard time, or I'm missing him, or.
I found those first, the heavy grieving period after to be the most isolating and loneliness, because there was a period for me where he was sick for 1.5 years with cancer before he died, right? So there was a lot of, the community knew he was dying and I knew he was dying, and that anticipatory grief was like very challenging. I was very afraid of what it was going to feel like.
Yeah.
And when it happened, it was like everything went quiet. I felt so calm and relieved because I was going through so much pain, but I was also so empty inside. Like there was this thing that I couldn't recognize that was happening.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and it was like quiet. And I felt so alone. And so when friends were like, how are you? It's hard to be like, I feel like absolute shit.
Yeah.
I have never felt worse in my life. Like but also the people that would just say, thinking of you. Yeah. Not even like
That's it. That's all you have to say. Yeah. Thinking about you.
I remember your mom telling me, I think I asked, how are you once? And she said, that's the worst question you could ask me right now. I said, okay. Yeah. What do I ask? Yeah. Yeah. And, she gave me some other things to say. I think she said, what are you doing to take care of yourself this week?
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
And someone gave me I had a few people send me DoorDash gift cards. Because it's so hard to think about the food you want to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to think about anything practical. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such a nice thing. Or someone can just show up and take out your trash or take your dog for a walk or just, drop food off on the doorstep.
Yeah.
Things like that are really nice. Or just show up and knock on the door and give you a hug.
Yeah.
I had a friend who went through some pregnancy loss recently, and I was so heartbroken for her. And I'm like the grief expert over here, and I couldn't think of the right thing to say. I mean, I sent her the obvious thinking of you text and love you. And she was really quiet. And I finally just drove over to her house 10 days later, and I just knocked on the door, and she came to the door in her bathrobe, and we just held each other in the doorway and sobbed together. And I was like, that was it. That was the thing, Yeah. There was nothing else to do. Yeah.
People who are grieving and going through grief, my experience was confusing, right? People had told me what it would be like. I had older cousins who were mentors that were after the funeral, they were enjoy this community because it's going to get much quieter and much harder.
Yeah.
And that scared me, right? And I think the year after, most people just kind of go on with their life. Not that they forget that I lost my dad, but those are the moments that are actually the hardest because my life feels incredibly different and I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, I was trying to actually feel my dad more because we have a Rabbi Naomi Levy, this woman that we go to. We actually love her a lot. She's so sweet. I was getting a little more spiritual. I was really just trying to get in touch. I was so lost. And she said, she had lost her mom too. And she said, when you lose someone, your soul at the time it may feel incomplete, but you actually take a piece of that person who left. And that actually makes, that's actually the part that you take from them and never feel alone. right?
Yeah. She was saying that we often think about when someone has passed that the things that we do in our lives are for them. Like you may, talking about your mom have, that experience of being that person or in ways. And she was like, it's not only that, it's actually the spark of them that continues to live through you.
Yeah.
And that to me actually made me feel better. Then I was like, wait, I don't want to not feel my dad anymore.
Yeah.
I want to try my hardest to feel him.
Yeah.
The jewelry, the clothes. Before this podcast, I went into a room and I got such good advice before he died. People were like, this is what you should do. Record conversations, ask him these 20 things.
Yeah.
And I did it all. Like, I remember sitting in the jacuzzi, didn't know when he was going to die. 2 months before, we just did an hour-and-a-half conversation. And I asked him 25 questions. I said, what should I name my son? What's your favorite memory?
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
I said, what kind of woman do you think I'm going to be with? What are some things I should work on? What's your first memory of me?
Oh, wow.
What's been your biggest surprise of your life?
What a gift.
And before the podcast, I just went and listened to it.
Wow.
And
what a gift. That's an amazing thing. Who told you to do that?
a mutual friend, Craig Clemens.
Craig
Craig told me.
Wow.
Craig lost his dad.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, who did he lose? How did he know?
When he was young, and he goes, this is the advice someone gave me. And we had a friend who lost his dad recently. His dad was sick.
Yeah.
And he goes, what should I do? How do I do it? I said, this has been the best advice I ever got.
Yeah.
And no, I have these.
That's amazing.
I have endless recordings of my dad that I can just listen to, and then I can close my eyes and I can be with him.
Yeah. Wow. I wish I had those of my mom. That's really cool. I've spent all of my adult life, wishing she were here, wondering what she would think of things I've done in my life, or raising kids, or getting married, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I wish I had those answers. We live in such a grief and death averse culture, and nobody wants to face it until it's happened. And then they're like, wait, there's so much I wish I had done. And I wish that we were more proactive like this and did ask those questions, did get that advice to really sit down and be present and gather that information, have those moments. That's such a beautiful gift that you got.
Yeah, I feel lucky.
Yeah. What's the process that you both were sharing, how you have the pieces from your mom, your dad, the necklace, the ring?
Mm-hmm.
What's the process? And I think I see a lot of people going through grief who don't want to be reminded.
Mm-hmm.
I've just noticed that even in some friends.
Mm-hmm.
What's the process of going from that place? Did you have that phase? And then how did it get to the place where you actually want to embrace and keep them with you at all times? At least.
It's a good question. I think what it lends itself to is a kind of bigger picture that the losses that we go through are sometimes very complicated. We're talking about really healthy, loving relationships that we had with a parent. Sounds like you didn't really have any conflict or outstanding stuff with your dad. I mean, maybe the regular, but some people have incredibly complicated relationships. Maybe they were estranged from someone they lost, or maybe their person was abusive on some levels, or just a really complicated person. Or sometimes we were complicated and, made the relationship hard. Yeah. And then the person dies and we have a lot of guilt. We have a lot of regret. We have a lot of anxiety. And that's when I see people avoid getting close, or avoid reminders, avoid wanting to, wear the jewelry or the shirt or look at photos, because they haven't worked through some of those complicated layers. I think when you have a pretty loving, healthy relationship and you lose someone, you pretty immediately want to be close to them and bring them and keep them and have those reminders. Yeah. But grief is not a Hallmark movie. Like, a lot of people go through very complicated losses, or the death itself was complicated and traumatic. Or, I work with a lot of people who've lost someone to a horrific accident where maybe somebody was at fault, or, things like that. And it's just really hard to move through those pieces before you can get to that kind of cleaner, more loving, beautiful, spiritual relationship with the person you lost.
Someone told me that death is really messy no matter how it happens, right? Like, some are beautiful and pass in your sleep at an old age.
Very few.
Almost like very few, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone's experience in their life, it's just like very turbulent. Mm-hmm. And I think that the people who wish it was easier, I think also creates the friction. Because for me, there was like, it wasn't the easiest death at the end. And there was a lot of anger about how it was happening. And I think my mom gave me really good advice. She's like, try to forget the last couple months, because that's not who your dad was.
Right.
try to remember all the good times. Look at pictures of him when he was dancing and smiling and wearing wigs and being the guy that you loved, and do your best to not hold on to the end. It took me 2.5 years to lose
I would guess at around 3 years, you're probably not remembering those last weeks as much as you were in the beginning.
Yeah.
They do fade,
Yeah.
but a lot of people grapple with that.
Yeah.
You know, death is messy and it's rarely pretty.
Yeah.
But I've given birth 3 times, and that's also not pretty. And it's really messy. And it's like there's a lot of screaming and blood and all kinds of stuff. And death, I mean, it's not easy to come into the world. It's not easy to leave. And our bodies, you know, deteriorate. And we watch our loved ones suffer, and we watch them go through a very physical process that's so hard to witness. It's really hard.
How would you say that grief ties into anxiety? I know you wrote about that a little bit. You talk about anxiety and grief. You talk about kind of like maybe the 5 stages. Maybe you could just share some people a little bit of like a general playbook, maybe.
Yeah, I think everyone has like the 5 stages that they've heard of, Kubler-Ross. And I know you have a different approach.
So there's a lot of misconceptions around grief. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did coin the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But you know what is interesting is that she was a psychiatrist working in a hospital here in the States in the 60s, and she was going around visiting patients who were dying. So they were approaching their own death. They'd received a terminal diagnosis, and she was interviewing them. She noticed that the other doctors, mostly male, were going around ticking off symptoms and looking at physical stuff and weren't talking to the patients about their experience, their emotional, spiritual experience of dying. She really, got in there and started talking to them about it. And what she realized was that they were going through those 5 stages. When they received a terminal diagnosis, they were first in denial about it. Then they were angry about it. Then they were bargaining, oh, maybe if I quit smoking or I get back in touch with God, I won't die. Then they would slink into depression, and then they would come around to a level of acceptance about their impending death. That makes a lot of sense when you apply it to a dying person. She later also applied it to the grief process, and it just doesn't work as well. And she herself said it's not a linear process. It's not a perfect formula. It does work on some level, but not entirely. And there's a lot more feelings and experiences that happen beyond those 5 stages. And I think most people know about the 5 stages. I mean, you hear about them all the time. So when you go through a loss for the first time, you're like, what are those 5 stages? What are the 5 things I need to do?
Where am I right now
on
the other
side?
Yeah, totally.
I can't tell you how many clients come to see me and they're like, I think I skipped one. I think I'm stuck in one. I just made one up, all kinds of stuff. And so Elizabeth Kubler-Ross herself was an incredible pioneer in the death and dying movement. I don't want to throw her out with the bathwater, but we've definitely moved beyond those 5 stages. I think anxiety is definitely a big component of grief and loss. Not for everybody, not every single person experiences it, but a lot of people feel incredible anxiety after they go through a significant loss. And it makes sense. They were ill prepared for the death, whether it was sudden or whether just even through the medical system, they didn't feel prepared. They didn't have the conversations at the end. They didn't resolve a complicated relationship. They're also just awestruck by death. I mean, we think we know that we're mortal, and we don't know until the person that we've known our whole lives, our dad, is gone. That is a very different experience of our own mortality. And it makes you think about death everywhere and how we're all going to die in this way that you really have never thought about. And that's scary. It's anxiety provoking. Then there's all the ways our lives change, just like you were talking about after your dad was gone. Your life changes immeasurably in so many ways that a lot of people don't see or perceive. Every experience you move through, every experience you meet, every new relationship, a job, a success, a failure, your dad's death is with you through that. And so it causes a lot of anxiety. You're suddenly living in a new world that you felt unprepared for as well. So people experience panic attacks, social phobias, people become suddenly afraid of flying, all kinds of stuff. And it's a really interesting component of it. Yeah. So I wrote a book called Anxiety, the Missing Stage of Grief. Nice. And I myself, my predominant response to my mother's death was absolute anxiety. The floor dropped out from underneath me. I was sitting in my dorm room, just panic attacking it out, and I couldn't find anything out there about anxiety and grief. I thought there was something else wrong with me. I thought there was my mom's death and my dad's impending death, and then there was this other anxiety problem.
Right. And
when I really started to unpack it and learn and study trauma, I began to realize that they were, of course, very connected.
And is the antidote to that anxiety that comes from out of grief different from anxiety that is experienced in life?
A little bit. That's a really great question. So anxiety itself is interesting, and I'm glad we're talking about it so much as a culture and as a society, because there is a lot we can do to work on anxiety. As I'm sure you guys know, there's breath work and meditation and cognitive work, and there's so many things we can do to tackle anxiety. So when I'm working with someone who has anxiety after a loss, we're doing some of that because it is, it's important to just kind of get a handle and start to manage the anxious thoughts that come up and the anxious responses. But the other piece of it when you've gone through a loss is, are you grieving? Are you letting yourself grieve? Are you open up to it? Do you have space to grieve? Are you safe to grieve? Are you engaging with your grief? I like to say that loss is something that happens to us, but how we grieve is up to us. We have some agency over the grief. We didn't have agency over the loss. We couldn't do anything about it. We couldn't stop it from happening. We didn't create it. It happened to us. But how we grieve is up to us. So you can choose to be conscious with it. And that's my most recent book, is Conscious Grieving. And that's like leaning into it, talking about it, opening it up, picking apart these pieces that might be complicated: guilt, remorse, regret, complicated relationships, writing about it, doing things to honor the person, helping yourself work through fears around, reminders of them and thinking about them, getting therapy.
Yeah. Can you go a little more into this? What are the healthiest ways to grieve?
So, men always ask me this question. Men want like answers.
Give me the answers.
All my male clients want homework.
Right.
They want really, constructive, practical tools and tips. But grief is tricky. Like, grief is just something that you have to really feel, and it's messy and it's unpredictable and it's different for every single person. I hate to give this answer because there's no universal formula. There's no, certain fix for each person. It's just different for every single person based on your relationship with the person who died, based on your own personality, based on the moment in time in your life, like what's happening in your life. All of these different components come into play. Some people are super busy working. Some people are raising families. Some people have no money or resources. Right. So you're working against and with all of these different factors when it comes to your grief. But the most important thing is to really try to make space for the grief. Try to open up to it. Find places to talk about it. Write about it. I love writing for grief. I mean, I was always a writer. I didn't want to be a grief therapist when I was a kid. Like, that wasn't my aspiration growing up. I wanted to be a writer. So I do love writing, but I think that everyone can utilize writing in their grief. Yes. Like, what would it feel like to sit down and write your dad a letter? And just say, "Dear Dad."
Yeah.
What would you tell him?
Today?
What would you want him to know?
I talk to my dad still.
Yeah.
Like, I literally will. I talk to him.
Good.
And I tell him all the time. I'll ask him how he's doing. And I'll say, "Are you enjoying yourself up there? Are you fishing with John Lennon and Elvis Presley? What are you doing?" And then I'll tell him, I'll say, "Dad, like, I'm figuring it out. Like, you don't have to worry about me anymore. Mom's doing much better. The boys are getting their lives, and we miss you every day, and we wish you were here, but we were grateful for the time that we had.
Yeah.
And we still talk about you all the time, and we feel you, and you're a part of us."
Yeah.
And I find time when I'm available to connect with him. I'll put on his favorite songs.
Yeah.
And we'll just hang. We'll just hang in the room, and I am grateful that I can still feel you.
Yeah.
Because I want my kids to be able to know him, right? And they're going to know him through me. I want my girlfriend to know him.
Yeah.
Right? She's going to know him through me.
Yeah.
Because my biggest fear is not ever feeling him.
Yeah.
Right? And so I sit with him and try to embody him. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I would tell him.
So Ben just answered your question. That's conscious grieving.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Did you bring two?
Yeah, I got my dick.
I love you guys.
We didn't talk about it. We just bro.
I'm not doing my job if someone's not crying.
Yeah.
So.
I loved that question. When I was feeling alone, I actually was like, who can I look to like, how do I grieve? Right?
Hmm.
And I started to like look for advice,
Yeah.
and I didn't really know where to look, right? Like, I, I was sick 10 years ago and I had cancer, but I never really like did any support groups.
Yeah.
I did it alone, and it really actually isolated me in that experience, even though a lot of people deal with cancer.
Hmm.
And so when my dad had died, I was like, we had a lot of people, right, have lost their fathers, but like, you can call a friend, but they weren't in the same grief I was. So I went to support groups
Good.
alone, anonymous support
Yeah.
groups, and started talking about my dad.
Hmm.
And I met older men who had experienced this, or they had a son my age, or I met people who actually had just lost their
Mhm.
parent, and it made me feel less alone.
Yeah. It's so helpful to hear other people talk about it too. There's the part about being able to share ourselves when we're in it, but then also just hearing that other people are going through it and having those aha moments where you're like, oh my God, you too feel like that. And I thought that I was alone in this. And it's so healing.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. There's a couple things that I want. When people lose their parent, I share a couple things that helped me. And I say, the grief feels like a rock in your pocket.
Mm.
And when that person dies, the rock feels like a boulder.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, the rock turns into a stone,
Mm-hmm.
but it never leaves your pocket.
Never.
And people wish they would stop grieving,
Yeah.
or they wish the pain would go away. And for me, that made it just like 100 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, it's always going to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And I never want, like, Kev does such a good job of bringing my dad into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He does such a good job of calling his presence into the room.
Mm.
And I never want that to stop. I think more people are afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I gave you permission a
Yeah.
long time ago, and you
Yeah.
knew my dad really well. My dad loved you so much. And so it's nice that he knows that.
Yeah.
And I want other people to like do that more.
Absolutely.
Like, permission for people.
Yeah.
If you're close to somebody, hey, like, whatever it is. Kevin has my dad's anniversary in his phone.
That's my favorite thing. I have so many people's anniversaries in my calendar, and they're just set on annual. And just a simple text or an email makes such a huge difference, especially when you're years out and you're like,
It's the
wow,
easiest thing to do,
the
and it
easiest
means
thing to
so
do.
much to the person.
It means so much.
And like, here's the thing. People on Instagram will post the loss, right?
Mhm.
It takes 2 seconds to text that person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just saw your Instagram. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of you.
Yeah.
What are you doing today?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
What was Mickey's death like for you?
What was Mickey's death like for me? I think I was really just trying to support my friend.
Yeah.
More
How
than
long had you
anything.
known him?
I'd known him for more or less 10 years at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a vibrant soul. Like, he was so fun.
Kevin was so good at supporting me.
Mhm.
Loves my family, but his responsibility was me. And so he was always checking in with me. He was always like, he came over so many times and we just talked. Really, like, kind of how free therapy was born. This was like,
It was totally. This is where the show sort of came out of, was those conversations.
yeah, he would just come over and I would be crying on the couch for an hour and he
Mm.
would just sit there and just listen, because I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah. Well, there
It's-
wasn't anything particular to do even.
For sure.
It's just that. That was
For
it.
sure.
How did you know how to do that? Like, where did that come from for you? Was it hard? Was it scary?
9 years ago, one of my other best friends lost his dad,
Mm-hmm.
and we were living together at the time. It was a group of 4 of us, and that process taught me a lot.
Yeah. Did you mess that one up? And then you
That
had to do it right this time, or
he
did you
was
do a pretty
actually,
good
like,
job then too?
He was really good at being really actively involved in his grief,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He had a chaplain that he would see like every other week. And he had us all sit with the
Yeah.
chaplain.
Which I thought was
Wow. That's really good.
Fascinating.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he was very intentional about that whole
Wow.
process before and
That's
then after
amazing.
as well.
Yeah.
So we all learned a lot from that process.
bet.
Mean, it was an initiation for all of us into that death process. Yeah, for sure. I messed up a lot. Like I've stumbled through, I think, all of my friends losing their dads, or the three that have. Even with my most recent friend, like tried to show up as much as I can. And then there's areas where you mess up
Yeah.
because everyone's different and everyone needs different things. And like,
Everyone's personality is different, what they want.
totally. And I assume, or I try to guess. That's the thing. Like you try and guess what someone wants or what's important to them, what may not be as important to them. But you never know. So,
but I think what's interesting here is that the thing that Kevin did really well was just his presence, right? We're not talking.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And I agree with that.
And that was the thing that people miss.
The thing I've learned the most in this process is when I was young, I used to try and fix things a lot. That was like what I learned. And it was just when someone's sad or hurting, it's like, what can I do to help? And what I've learned through all these processes are just often there's nothing to say. It's just the presence that's important. And I'm here for you. I love you.
You can't fix it.
Yeah.
You just show up and you be in it with them.
Yeah. I used to ask, what do you need?
We don't know what we need.
No.
But then my friend who just lost his dad was like, please never ask me that question. And I was like, right. Yeah. He's like, I don't know what the fuck I need right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, just do what you think would feel really nice for me. And he's like, and if it's not what it is, it's fine. It'll still feel nice because you try to do something.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things
that's
and you
it.
just learn, going through it.
Yeah.
What traditions have you found, cultural traditions, religious traditions, have been the most supportive of a healthy grieving process?
I mean, there's lots. It's really varied across cultures. And
are there any specific?
I mean, I think anything where you're coming
seen?
together, Shiva, memorials, all of those kinds of things, are really helpful. Anyone coming together to honor the person, being in it with the person who's grieving, the family who's grieving. But then you can extend those traditions for years in different ways. My kids and I always do an altar around Dia de los Muertos, and we put up, we just do like a table in our kitchen, and we get out all the photos of every person that we've lost, people they've never met, grandparents that I had that they definitely never met. We put flowers, we put little trinkets, and my kids are really into it. So I think a lot about my kids never met either of my parents. And so my constant work is to bring my parents into their lives. I never say my parents around them. I say your grandma Sally, your grandpa Jerry, so that they always think about them as theirs, not mom's parents.
Oh my gosh.
So we do things like that. And so we put photos out, do all of that. At Christmas, I give them presents from Grandma Sally and Grandpa Jerry because kids like presents.
So sweet.
And so they're like, ooh, Grandma Sally always gets me something good,
Such a good idea. Do you think about what Sally would give?
Oh my
Yeah, I
God,
do.
that's so
That's a
beautiful.
great idea.
Yeah.
When I am having a strong emotion, that emotion can show up in a dream, but it looks different, but the emotion is real. So like when my dad after he died, I was grieving and I was confused and I had a dream about him probably like once a month. They were like horrible.
Yeah.
Terror. Wake up in the middle of the night sweating. Just like alive, and then he's dying again, but I can't stop him. He just keeps dying. And every time he's just dying and dying and dying.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and then it's, as I started to get better, I started to have better dreams about him. I remember, don't know what we were doing, but we were hanging out, something fun. And it was like what I felt the closest version of a lucid dream I ever had. But it was like, he like gives me a hug. And I'm like about to wake up, and I'm really trying not to wake up. And then I like wake up, and for like a split second, I felt like I felt him again. And I was like, whoa.
That's the
I
best.
felt his bigger, chunky fingers. I felt the calluses that he always had. And I was like, wow. And that just like, again, not pushing away the desire to connect with him.
Yeah.
Like always wanting to feel him. Another thing someone can do, another idea I just thought of. My mom made my dad record happy birthdays for all the boys before he died.
So smart.
And sent him to all
That
of
is so smart.
and sent him to us on our next birthdays.
Oh my God. If I had that of my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That's so sweet.
I know. My mom,
That's
you did a good job, Mom.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that progression of dreams you described is interesting because I think it's important to acknowledge that it takes a while for the brain to understand and assimilate the fact of someone's death. You know, it's really hard. So a lot of those dreams, you're just like reckoning with the death over and over, and it's horrific. And it's your brain is trying to make sense of it. How is he not here? This person you've known your entire life since the moment you took your first breath, that person, you know? And it's just, it doesn't happen overnight that we recognize and understand that they're gone. It takes a long time to really get there, years sometimes for some people. And then when you do, you begin to come around to a new level of acceptance, not that it's okay that they're gone, but just acceptance that they are gone, that they're not physically here. But that's also the cool window where you begin to open up to this different relationship with them. You can't go, for anyone listening who's, you know, just gone through a loss, it's really hard. It takes time to get to the place where you have this more spiritual relationship with them. Yeah. In the beginning, you just feel sometimes panicked, sometimes angry, sometimes just horrified or sad that they're not here. And you can't think about, you know, the nice relationship you're going to have at some point, like I have with my mom, where I talk to her and wear her earrings and throw the St. Patrick's Day party. Like that took me a long time to get there. There was a lot of grappling with the reality of her death and her absence in my life that took time.
You know, I just had a death in the family. My cousin lost her husband, who I've known for 20 years. 3 kids, teenagers from 10 to 16, like horrible. Like I love this family so much. They're my family. And like, oof. Obviously we've been talking about a lot of like slower passings where you have maybe a little bit of time. How is the experience of a sudden passing?
Yeah.
Where you don't get any real closure?
Yeah, it's really hard.
And how does one navigate that experience differently or better?
That's a great question. I think it takes longer to get to some of the places that, you know, that Ben and I have been talking about. You know, there's a lot more to kind of move through. There's just the shock of it. There's the trying to understand how it happened, why it happened. There's so much stuff that happens. And so it takes longer to kind of get to the place where you're maybe just feeling settled enough to be in the sadness and the grief and the missing, you know, because you're dealing with so many things in the beginning. So that can take years for some people. I work with a lot of people who are busy parents who've maybe lost a partner, and they've got to get those kids stabilized. They've got to get their work situation stabilized, the household, you know, all the you know, admin stuff that comes with it. And so sometimes it's 3 years before they are able to actually just sit and cry and be like, I cannot believe I lost my husband and I miss him so much. And if he were just here, you know? So that's kind of the difference with a sudden death, because in one where we're a little bit more prepared, we can think about it. We can do these amazing things like make recordings. We can say goodbyes. We can tidy up some of the life admin that's coming. We can come to terms with it a little bit. And so we have that, you know, that opportunity before someone dies when we know it's happening.
Yeah. Is the closure process, is it just longer? I guess this is my guy brain, which is like, what are the things you do? How can I help? What are the, you know, all those things? Is it just a longer process?
It is, but I mean, closure, like what to define closure? What do you want closure to mean? You know, closure is hard.
It's like when you look for closure, it's probably not going to come.
Yeah.
The way you expect it to show up.
I think acceptance and closure are 2 different things. There's an acceptance that it's happened. A lot of people, especially with a sudden death like that, there's maybe a year or 2 of just resisting that this has happened. I don't want my life to be like this. This is not what it was supposed to be like. He was supposed to be here. Their dad was supposed to be here. I don't want it to look like this. I don't want to be a widow at 40 or whatever it is, you know, and just there's this resistance to that. And so acceptance means being like, just letting go and being like, okay, shit, this is my life now. This person is gone and this is how it's changed everything. And now I'm going to move forward from here. That's acceptance. Doesn't make it okay that he's gone. Yeah. But it's more of getting to a point where you're like, okay, this is what I'm working with. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to like, there's no timetable. You can grieve now or then. You just have to do it.
Oh, but people love to put a timetable on grief.
Right.
You know, people, it's funny, we get a lot of messages from the outside about how long we get to grieve, what it should look like. So you get those messages from people not asking because they just want you to be better. So they're not going to ask about it, or they assume you should be better. You get those messages with just like what bereavement leave looks like in this country.
Right.
You get 2 days for, it has to be a certain person that you've lost. You get those messages when people are like, you feeling better? 6 months?
Yeah,
You're good now?
You must be better now.
Yeah, you're good. It's been 6
Crazy.
months. Yeah,
I wanna
3
punch
months.
that person in the face.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about experience
yeah.
camps?
Thank you for asking. I actually forgot about it. I'm so
Right.
this has been such a, I'm enjoying
I'm loving this
I'm
conversation.
loving this.
Me too.
Like this is so around the 2-year mark,
Mhm.
I was still feeling a little bit disconnected
Mhm.
from reality. I was feeling more like myself, but still in grief and struggling internally with my own cancer and my dad's death.
Mhm.
Not in a bad way, but just in a way that felt a little heavy still. While I was, while my dad was dying, I was scrolling on LinkedIn and I saw a guy post about experience camps.
Mhm.
You heard of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, when I was 12, I lost my dad. Da-na-na-na. Experience camps is a place where people who have lost someone they love, their kids, they go to camp and you can be a counselor.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Aw.
Signed up. And as it was approaching, I was like, I'm not doing this. There's no way I can be here. I'm not capable. And with the help of some people, and my therapist, I went and did it. And it was the most profound experience for my healing, not only for my dad's death, but for my own cancer.
Yeah.
And
I have chills.
yeah, I have never felt so seen and heard in my loss.
Yeah.
But I also felt like I had a better understanding of my grief
Yeah.
from hearing people, from sharing it. The biggest takeaway I had was that it wasn't just that my dad died. It was that I had cancer. And I was like trying to tell people the story of my dad's experience of losing my dad, but it always felt incomplete and not true to me. So I went to grief camp and I shared the full thing. And these kids were so inspiring. These 5-year-olds
I know. Oh.
who lost their parent, and they remember the mom screaming. They remember finding the sister in the pool. They remember the hard part. And then somehow an 8-year-old says, but you know what? I still talk to my dad. He's still with me.
Yeah.
And I like when he's here. And my mom reminds me of all of the good times, and we still look at pictures. And then they go and play.
Yeah.
And we get to just bring joy to them.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm going back in July. Like
That's amazing.
Oh, you are?
I'm going to go back.
Amazing.
I
Oh,
can't.
that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, because I don't know. It changed me, and I really want other people to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend that I met a couple weeks ago who lost his dad about a year after mine. Now he's going to come.
Awesome.
Oh,
That's so
amazing.
cool.
That's so
cool.
So sweet.
Shout out Grant. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
He's
That's
gonna
so
go.
cool.
I'm just like, that to me is
Yeah.
conscious grieving.
Yeah, it is.
But
It
what's
really
so
is.
scary for me.
Yeah.
I love to try. I'm curious, but that was something that I was resisting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got into this work, just being around other people who are grieving or feeling like I had something at all to contribute to it. It healed me. I was healing.
That's great.
I'm so glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. You are definitely consciously grieving.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen grief show up in families?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I read about it. I was like, whoa, that makes sense. Because everyone has their own experience with their parent
Mm-hmm.
or the loved one that lost. And it's like, it can be a little bit.
It can definitely get a little sticky in there. I always think about like a table with multiple legs around it, each leg representing one of the family members, and you remove a leg, like your father dies, everybody else has to move around into new roles with each other, new relationships with each other, new dynamics. No one is grieving the same way. Somebody over here is posting a bunch on Instagram about it. Somebody over here wants to be really private about it. Somebody over here didn't show up in certain ways at the end and everyone's mad at them. Somebody wants to talk about it when no one else wants to talk about it. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It can definitely be very challenging.
That was so challenging.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who recently lost someone and they're in this infancy stages of that process?
Number one, be gentle with yourself. I think I see people be really hard on themselves when they're grieving. It's scary and we're really vulnerable. You said it yourself earlier that people told you what grief would be like. You don't know what grief is like until you're in it. And it's a whole new experience. And so often people are not recognizing themselves as they know themselves to be. And so they can be hard on themselves. So be really gentle with yourself. Ask for support. Find people who can show up and sit with you. And think about your own grief. not what everybody else says your grief should look like or will look like or how long it's supposed to last. What is your grief like? And how can you open up space in your life to be with it? Are there complicated things you need to move through? Or you need to talk out some guilt or some regret or a complicated relationship? How can you honor your person? How can you start to find your way towards them in a way? One of the big things, the last thing I'll really want to say is that what you and I are talking about, where you are 3 years out, there's a lot of beauty to be found in it. And I think that's a misconception about grief and loss, is that it's all hard and terrible and scary. I would take my parents back in a second, but I also am very aware of how their deaths and the grief has made me a better person, better than I ever would have been, more compassionate, wiser, more open, more present to my life, more, just in the world as a human in a way that I don't know I would have achieved otherwise. And there's just beauty in that,
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm there now, right? It's not so much pain, it's actually more joy. And I never thought I would get here. But you're right, there is some beauty in remembering and having, like you said, about the spark inside of you.
Yeah.
I love this conversation so much.
Me
So
too.
wonderful. It was like so heart-filling and really meaningful.
I'm so glad you guys are talking about this. I mean, this is the important piece. People who are out there going through it, when they hear conversations like this, it makes them feel so much less alone, so much, support that they can get through this. And that.
Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast and you know someone in the last 3 to 5 years that maybe experienced grief, just like send this to them. Be like, this guy on this podcast lost his dad, and I think
made me think of you.
Yeah, made me think of you. It's such an easy way to just send them a hug.
Yeah,
totally.
It means so much.
Here, I just want to give a little shout out.
Yeah.
You said this one, Conscious Grieving, a transformative approach to healing from loss. It's probably like that.
That's the newest one. That's the really,
This came out last year?
It came out last year. That was the book where if I could write.
Beautiful book.
If I could write and give all of my advice to anybody, that would be the one.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks for listening. We appreciate you.
If you enjoyed this episode and us embarrassing ourselves and talking about our feelings, you are definitely going to like everything else.
Follow along on Instagram @freetherapy, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, I noticed something happen after my dad died, and I'm curious if you've seen this in your practice. So I'm a male, obviously, and my dad died, and I'm the oldest. And when it happened, my friends started the support, and the funeral was big, and it was great. And after like the 3 or 4 month mark, when I started to just go out again, a lot of girls became quite attracted to me. Ones that maybe I had like tried to date years before were suddenly available. Ones that I was like, you okay? And it was like about 6 to 9 months of a lot of female attention. Is that a thing you see?
It is a thing. Women love a grieving guy. They just do. I don't know why. I don't have a good answer for why. I just know that it's true, and I see it all the time. They're called the casserole bringers. They just start showing up. It's true. They just start showing up, and I would guess that it's because you're vulnerable and you're really feeling some feelings, and women like that. They like to know, they know for sure that you've got some big feelings going on.
We did man on the street content. Like, we would go and interview women, and we would ask them, what's the one thing you wish that men would work on in therapy? Number one answer, probably 90% of the answer was, I wish they would just learn how to express their emotions, feel their feelings, share their emotions. And to this point, when someone is grieving, they are in their emotions.
They are.
It probably is the most attractive thing to a woman.
I mean, this was like the heated rivalry phenomenon, right? Like, it was two guys who were like being emotional and having feelings, and women just ate it up.